what I would like to ask, Chris, just
Not
on
just being blamed, but being
being
sacrificed.
sacrificed, yeah, being
And
sacrificed, yeah.
that's where we're headed, I'm afraid.
And these people are putting this symbology out there in the open now. What do you think the purpose behind Donald Trump Jr. putting that out? Most people look at it and say it's the greatest of all time. I get that, but do you think it's almost like because he would have been raised in this? Is it a cry for help? Is it, oh, we're all going to get slaughtered anyway? Are they too far in it? Because they're pointing their hands down as well, those two. And I know Kushner's well in with the bad lot. Like, what is the symbology of them putting their hands down? And why would they risk putting that out if it wasn't just to, mock people?
One, they're supremely arrogant. They know they are in power now. They have won the election. They are demonstrating their fealty to secret societies and to Israel so that they are showing that they are on board with all this 100%. And this sends out a coded message to all the Freemasons, to all the Kabbalists, to all the Gnostics and everybody else who's involved in this in the occult level. All the Satanists will understand all this. It's kind of a joke for them that nobody's aware of what they're actually doing. They believe that this generates an energy that they can feed off of. They believe that they are scripting this narrative so that through sympathetic magic, it becomes reality and it draws out this map of creation, which then becomes creation. It also tends to sow chaos and create confusion and to gaslight people and to make people unable to organize to oppose it because everyone will interpret it differently and will argue over semantics and meanings and symbols. The intelligence agencies, and long before that, agencies of the crowns of all the heads of Europe and all the royalty would use these kinds of tactics of dividing the masses and the public so that they could never form any kind of cohesive force of resistance or dissent. They also want to infiltrate what was called the alternative media and garner that narrative. So they put out a certain portion of the truth and reveal some of what they're doing so that their paid agents and influencers can then garner all of that and co-opt all the research that authentic people like we are doing and utilize it to gain the audience and gain credibility, but then insert all kinds of ridiculous things that demoralize people. And having co-opted the movement, they can get their people elected and pretend that these people who are the elites are actually in opposition to the elites. And we saw the Trump people playing that narrative consistently, even back in 2015 and 2016. You had the Goldman Sachs man, Steve Bannon, and you had Cambridge Analytica analyzing data, sending out emails, pretending to be the opposition to the swamp, pretending to be knowledgeable about all of these occult things, and pretending to be the authorities whom the public could trust as their saviors against the deep state. Now, this term deep state is very interesting. It comes out of Turkey, and it always represented the Ergenekon and the Dernme crypto Jews of Turkey who perpetrated the Young Turk movement and the Armenian genocide. And that is where that term deep state comes from. It represented the crypto Jews of the Ottoman Empire and of Mustafa Kemal Ataturk's nationalistic nation of Turkey, which got rid of the Islamic Caliphate and destroyed the Ottoman Empire so that the Zionists could take over Palestine. First, I should thank someone on Twitter who called my attention to this. And then I was able to do a Google search based on the image and pull this up on Instagram. You see Donald Trump looking into the mirror, and he represents the goat. And the goat has twofold symbology. It symbolizes both Samael, the devil, and it symbolizes the scapegoat in the scapegoat ritual of Yom Kippur. And it also signifies the Messiah, son of Joseph, who is Jesus Christ, who was Cyrus, who was Haman, who was Adolf Hitler, and who is now today Donald J. Trump. And the purpose of the scapegoat is to transfer all the sins of Israel onto the Gentiles so that the Israelites are not punished for their sins, but the Gentiles are punished for their sins in their place. And that was the role of Jesus Christ, to destroy the ancient Roman Empire and to scapegoat the Romans, Greeks, and Egyptians for all the sins of the Israelites so that the Israelites could obtain redemption for their sins against God, like worshiping the golden calf. So Gentiles become the scapegoat, and this happens on Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, the high priest sacrifices two goats, one in the temple and one in the wilderness of Azazel. The goat that is scapegoated in the wilderness to Azazel is given to the devil, Samael. And the devil is the prosecutor and accuser in the heavenly court. The roles of Satan include being the witness, the tempter, the accuser, the prosecutor, and the punisher. So they believe that on Yom Kippur, there is a heavenly court held, and the high priest gives Satan, through this sacrificial goat, a list of all of Israel's sins. And then the accuser, the adversary, Samael, Satan, Hasatan in the Bible, then goes into the heavenly court and issues his accusations. And there's a jury of the 70 princes of the 70 nations. The word Goyim means nations. Gentile means nations. And Satan is his chief prince of princes of all the Goyim, of all the nations, and is the guardian angel of all the Goyim nations, and is supposed to represent them in the heavenly court as their advocate and prosecute Israel, because Israel is always sinning against them. But the Israelites give Samael, the father of all the Gentiles and mother of all the Gentiles, this sacrificial goat on Yom Kippur, which is called the scapegoat. The mythology of the scapegoat derives from this. And Samael becomes busy with this scapegoat and becomes distracted, and in the heavenly court places all the sins of Israel onto the necks and heads of the Gentiles. So in that way, the Israelites obtain redemption from their sins and can enter into the messianic era of the world to come, and can be restored to Israel, exterminate the Amalekites, and anoint their king, Messiah, son of David. But the Gentiles get scapegoated and blamed for all these sins in this heavenly court by their own treacherous father. And because they bear the burden of these sins, they are prosecuted. They are accused by Satan, their father, and then they are punished by Satan, their father, and executed. And all of these roles are taken on by the Messiah, son of Joseph, by Jesus Christ. He played the role of the scapegoated lamb that was sacrificed to save the nation of Israel, as Caiaphas says in the book of Matthew. And the Gentiles are all scapegoated for the sins of Israel. So we now have the Antichrist, the Christ returned as the Antichrist in the form of Donald Trump, who is scapegoating the West for all the sins of Israel. The slaughter of the Palestinians in Gaza is blamed by Trump on Hamas, and then America, for supplying all the weapons under Biden and now under Trump, gets blamed for all the things that the Israelis do. So we become the scapegoats for all the sins of Israel, and they're turning the entire world against the West, and specifically America, so that they can annihilate us. And this is the role of the scapegoat that Donald Trump is portraying. And we see this imagery being put out that reveals all this, so that this script and this narrative is put out into the universe, so it becomes our future. Rabbi Isaac said, "Give the fool who stands before the king some wine and tell him all the faults and errors thou hast committed, and he will come and praise thee and say that there is not another in the world like thee." So here the informer, who represents Satan and Samael, the accuser, the witness and tempter of sin, is ever before the king. And Israel presents him with a gift along with a list of the faults and wrongs which they have done. And he comes and praises Israel and becomes their defender. This story is telling the story of Samael being given the gift of the wine in the form of the scapegoat, so that he will get this list of all the sins done by the Israelites and all their wrongs, and he will instead become their defender instead of their prosecutor. And God puts all those on the wicked, on the head of the wicked of his own people. So what happens on Yom Kippur is Samael, the 71st prince of princes of the Gentiles, is supposed to accuse Israel of all its sins. And he's even given a list of all the sins of Israel. But because he is given this scapegoat, he instead puts all this on the head of his own children. The Gentiles are Satan's children, and Satan is their guardian angel and is supposed to defend them and prosecute the Israelis. But because they have bribed him with this goat and made a sacrifice, a worship sacrifice to the devil, he instead takes the side of the Israelis and falsely and unjustly accuses the Gentiles, the Goyim, of the sins of the Israelites. So we get scapegoated for everything. We get prosecuted for it, and ultimately we get punished. And our ultimate punishment that brings the ultimate redemption to the Israelis is our complete and utter extermination. And then they believe they will have cleansed the earth of the evil of the Gentile side, of the Sitra Achra, the other side, the Sitra de Smola, the left-hand side, the backside, the anus of the universe, whereas the Israelites are portrayed as the front side, as the Sitra Yamina, the right-hand side, as the Sitra de Kedusha, the holy side. So they believe that in this way, by scapegoating us for all their sins, they incite Satan to exterminate us. But because Satan doesn't exist, they themselves take on that role of exterminating all of us, and they themselves take on the role of falsely accusing us of all of their sins.